everyone, I'm Jhanna and this is my best friend Edel.
Hello.
And today we're going to be talking about the topic of familiarity breeds contempt because I think this happens in very close relationships. You know people maybe not very well, but just because you've known somebody for a long period of time or you've met them through someone, so you already have a feeling that you know them very well. And sometimes that can give rise to too much comfort and maybe get us to a point where we might cross a line without really realizing it.
Yes.
So there's a huge difference between knowing somebody because you've earned that relationship, that trust, that level of comfort with someone, and just assuming that there's a relationship that exists because you've known someone for a while. So what has been your experience with?
I think you summarized it in the intro itself.
So now we don't need a video at all.
No, it's just like familiarity is different from intimacy. And intimacy breeds comfort and familiarity breeds contempt. It is
Right.
what it is.
Right.
So
Now I don't know what to say. I think we're done.
So familiarity just means I'm exposed to something for a very long time. I haven't absorbed it. It hasn't become part of my fiber of who I am as a being. So I know I can predict what will happen in this particular person's behavioral thing simply because I've observed them without understanding their motives, their reasons, who they are as a person, why they are doing what they are doing. Because if we did, we'll have compassion. Right. We'll have comfort with them. As opposed to people being familiar, in which case they stand apart, don't try to understand what motivates a person, just know that this is their behavior, their stance, and this is how they keep doing it. And that makes us feel like because I can predict the outcome, I kind of own you. I have power over you. And that can give rise to... Why should it give rise to contempt though? That's a bit sad.
I think it's because we also come with our own set of what feels okay and what doesn't okay. A lot of it has to do with our upbringing, right? And most of us are brought up in a way where we're kind of told to cut certain parts of us. And I think the contempt part of it also rises a little bit of, rises because of shame, because of guilt. And feeling like we're not heard or seen, which is very normal in relationship where there's too much familiarity but not enough understanding.
Could it, for me, I don't know, I'm sure you're right, but I also think it's got to do with lack of humility maybe, because we are not taught what healthy humility is. I mean, I can only speak for myself. I wasn't taught what humility is. I was taught that humility means becoming some sort of a,
morphing into something that is comfortable for someone else.
Yes, morphing into morphing into less than who I am, so that everybody else can seem bigger in comparison, and therefore they will feel good about themselves. And as a consequence, I was constantly making myself small enough to be in the company of people who didn't do as much as I did. But because I could watch their patterns and who they were as people, it made me contemptuous of them, considering I do so much more, and I'm making myself small to make you comfortable. So I think
that makes complete sense.
I think that is and a long time ago I watched this documentary where this relationship therapist was saying contempt is the death knell of a marriage. That is it. That if you feel, and the signs of contempt is cutting off a person in the middle of a sentence and finishing the sentence. That's number one. Number two, pursing of lips, going like rolling of eyes. That's another sign of contempt. And belittling people while talking about them behind their back. That is a sign of contempt.
Poking fun at people.
Yes, the sense of humor. Yes. So there was some about a list of contemptuous things: the pursing of the lips, the rolling of the eyes, and finishing cutting people's sentences off. These were all signs of contempt. And it just means that you're familiar with the pattern of a person's behavior, but very little to do with what motivates a person. And therefore, but at the same time, I mean, I mean, my dogs and I, we're not even the same species, right? But I can predict their pattern of behavior. It doesn't make me contemptuous of them somehow.
It's easier to predict patterns of behaviors in species that are not human beings.
Yes, but it doesn't make me contemptuous of them. It makes me so loving towards them. And but it's restricted
I think it's also
to humans.
because we're able to think, right? But you know, the thing is, I think that's a one-off case. But I do know of people who feel contemptuous towards animals. There's so much animal abuse that does happen.
You know, you're right. You're right.
So if you are not able to get your point across or your have a conversation with another human being, you're going to try to take it out on anybody else. You remember that joke that you were telling me about? Joke, but because it's not actually that funny, it's just very sad. How the boss yells at the man yells at his wife, she yells at the son, and the son goes and kicks the cat.
Yes.
Right? So it's I suppose it's that.
It's the hierarchy of abuse.
Yeah.
Okay.
And also,
possible.
I don't know. I think for me personally, what you said about contempt, why we feel contemptuous of people, all of it has been right. And also because I think in a lot of relationships, we don't feel comfortable enough to communicate what we actually feel. We use contempt as a way to connect with people.
Fuck, I never knew that.
So, you're right. Say you're poking fun at someone. I've done this in the past. I've poked fun at people and assumed that that was an intimate relationship.
Oh, you're right. It's kind of like this reality television series that we watched quite recently.
Which one?
That you brought into my life.
I don't remember which one it was.
She's brought so much into my life.
By the way, we still have a couple more to watch.
Oh, no. No. But then I'll watch it anyway. I just want to make a stance to make myself feel good that I protested. No, I think it's that Bollywood Wives. Series.
Yeah. Where I didn't watch it completely. I only watched those 4 episodes.
So it's how these women who've known each other for a few years,
decades actually, 25 years,
and they're all these highfalutin, you know, like
celebrity
wives. Yeah. And they say they call each other
such horrible,
and it's not even in a fun way. Like
I don't think I can even do it in a fun way to someone else.
I don't know how to do it. And when they did it, it wasn't fun. It didn't give me an idea of how you can say someone was calling someone a bitch and a cow and a twat and words like that. And I'm like, even with you, it sounds abusive. I haven't yet met a person in real life or seen a representation of it in the movies where people lovingly say that to each other, and
it's extremely uncomfortable.
So you're right, that's another example of me acting contemptuous and pretending that is intimacy.
I don't think they're acting contemptuous.
They actually
are.
They are contemptuous of each other. Could competition, a sense of competition with the person that we know, familiarity, because we're familiar with the people, and most of us don't know the meaning of intimacy to begin with. So and I think most close relationships, the people we have the most information about are the people we can compete the most with, right? So competition can, and I'm sorry, there's nobody standing, which is the finishing line in a relationship, right? So you don't know when the race is going to end, and in the end, if you feel like you won, it's going to have to be a secret victory.
Because even that win feels very shitty.
I don't know whether it feels...
Because I have had friendships and relationships in the past where I have competed with the other person, and I'm sure they have at some subconscious level.
Yes.
But even in an argument, for example, I always felt the need to have the last word. Technically, I won.
And if you didn't have the last word,
I would sulk and I would use that as a manipulative technique.
You would be contemptuous and come back with a contemptuous something at a later date because you're keeping score in your head.
I would have done that.
Right, I've done that so many times as well. Yeah.
Plus, and even if I did win that particular argument, honestly, I don't think you can win arguments. It's just
there is
losers.
no such thing. Yes.
You just lose. Both sides lose, right? But I would still come away feeling so shitty about it, and then I feel guilty, and then because I feel guilty, I feel even more contemptuous.
You're a better person than I am, because every time I won an argument, it made me feel so good.
But later I'd go and apologize. So I'm winning the argument, but then the guilt would make me apologize. And then because I'm apologizing, in that moment I'd feel, okay, I'm a better person than you. But later I'd still feel contempt because I felt guilty, and then I have to apologize, and then I was the humble person.
So you want the humble race?
Yes, but I'm still contemptuous of you.
Yeah. This is very fucked up. But I have been in relationships where there was so much competition, and whoever we assume, because the rules of competition is not laid out in a very sterile, in an objective way.
It's like all bets are off.
Yes, we don't know what the other person is competing with us about, because I dated this guy who was a bad dancer, but because he for some reason thought I was a better dancer than him, he wanted to practice dancing with me all the time, and he wanted to become like a better dancer. And I used to feel this terrible energy coming off of him, and he would constantly say how he went dancing and all the girls were checking him out, and I'm like, if they were checking you out, it's because, dude, you were such a bad dancer on the floor. But obviously I didn't say that, but that was the contemptuous conversation going on in my head. And he would be he would pretend, I'm sure he expended a lot of energy trying to act like as though he admired me for being a better dancer. But he was a sportsman, and he would take me, and we would go on treks and things like that. But he would just charge ahead, leaving me to do what? Trail behind. So he was contemptuous in his field as a result of being competitive with me in another. So I think an unhealthy sense of competition only arises with lack of intimacy, but a lot of familiarity. And that's why it's contemptuous.
And also the strangest thing is that is like the majority of the relationships I've seen.
As you probably don't know, I watch a lot of true crime documentaries, okay? The husband always kills the wife. And this is so funny because I don't know, was it with you I was talking about, is that you should be very careful who you're marrying, because you're marrying your murderer.
Yeah, so you told me that. And I read Mindhunter, which is by this John Douglas. That's the exact same thing he says. Whatever crimes have been committed, it's always somebody who knows you the closest.
Yes.
Always.
And the abusers, like if you see child abusers, where they just this random child abuser is so far away, and it's so rare. Crimes always happen very close to home, and it starts with the secrets of your heart. So I do know, and unfortunately, because contempt is so trivialized, is so not studied, addressed. Eliminated. Nobody goes to therapy for contempt. And
I don't think they even realize it, right? Because if you had to admit that you feel contemptuous about somebody else, so many relationships will just fall apart.
Yes.
And they'll have to question their foundation of building trust, building intimacy with another person.
And that's right. Yeah. So if we don't address contempt, and it reaches a boiling point, what is the ultimate act of contempt? The ultimate humiliation is taking your life. And this could happen. So familiarity breeding contempt is not just somebody knocking over your sandcastle because they were like, oh, what are you going to do? That's not just contempt, right? It's not just pursing your lips or rolling your eyes. It can be so terrible. It could have like dire consequences in the absolute end of the spectrum. On the other end, it could just be a kind of a boiling background horribleness that leads to hypertension, heart disease, and diabetes. And why would you want that? Because you've suppressed so much, and you're expressing so little, and what you're expressing is so painful. this has to be addressed.
Yeah, I think like I said, right, it starts to get you to a place where you have to question everything you've put into a relationship.
Yes.
And then have conversations about it. Therapy. Do therapy.
Oh God, yes.
Write about it, because sometimes you have these words swimming in your head.
Yes.
And once you get it out on paper, it's a little easier to address because you don't have to keep it bottled inside. These are few ways you can just start to address it, but it's such like a much deeper topic that needs constant work.
Yes.
Constant work. It'll also make you question a lot of relationships you have, whether it's your close friends. Sometimes there's a lot of contempt between parents and children.
Oh my God.
Right? Parents feel contempt towards their children. Children feel the same way towards their parents. It's not easy. Obviously, it's not easy, but if you don't address it, then it's just going to have either the lower end of the spectrum, or
which is lots of diseases.
And that's not fun anyway. Or the worst case scenario where you
just have a chalk line drawn around your body, dude. This is horrible everywhere. Yes.
And we're laughing about it. We're not laughing at the topic. We're just laughing at the situation.
No, but
a lot of us are in.
No, but honestly, Jana, had we not embarked on a journey personally to find out what is healthy, to address things, and leave people who are just contemptuous of us. Oh my God. It's just this area of my heart. It just feels freer. Otherwise, it was always constricted, and it needed to come out some way. And the only way that I could equalize someone else who was putting me down is to put them down. And contempt is another type of an equalizer, isn't it?
Yes.
And it's a terrible, terrible thing. So, familiarity breeding contempt is an indolent ulcer. It's an indolent malignancy. You better learn to root it out. And the one way, like you said, is therapy.
Yeah.
Either with the person whom you already are in a relationship with and both of you are contemptuous of, or you rewrite the script of everything we know about relationships and relationship building and start from scratch. And then see if we can salvage relationships that we already have, or maybe cut them off completely because they're unsalvageable, and go and embark and create new relationships and have a better life. I
also realized that as we started to do a lot of work on understanding ourselves, it was easier for me because I was able to work on not blaming other people. So it also gives you the sense of being more empowered.
Yes.
And gives you a little bit of insight, and you can also step back, because when you are with somebody else and it's very easy to blame someone else, it takes a lot more effort, right? When you take the entire responsibility, you are taking a lot of effort.
Yes.
But it's definitely lesser than what you would if you were to get somebody else to be in charge of your life. So that was another thing. But therapy definitely helped.
Oh my God, yes.
And please remember that therapy is not like a complete solution, because the actual work begins only once therapy is over. So you have to consistently keep working and trying to understand yourself. So I guess that is it from me. Do you have anything else to?
No, I think we encapsulated the topic quite well.
And I think I'm going to work on it a little bit more as well, because it's bringing back memories of when I did feel contemptuous of people. So I guess the work is cut out for me. Alright, if you guys enjoyed the video, please click like and subscribe, and we will see you in a couple of weeks. Thank you.
Bye-bye.